Hey guys, tonight we're going on a little adventure together. You've had a long day, maybe your feet are up, maybe you're already wrapped in your favourite blanket. Either way, I invite you to drift back, way back, to the Ottoman Empire, on what might be the most exhausting, sudsy, and surprisingly social day of the week, Laundry Day. You find yourself standing in a quiet, sun-drenched street of Istanbul, where the air is thick with the scent of baking bread and wild herbs from nearby gardens. You can almost feel the heat radiating from the cobblestones beneath your feet, warming the soles of your worn sandals. Somewhere in the distance, the call to prayer drifts through the air like a soft lullaby, gently reminding you that it's time to prepare for one of the most essential and grueling tasks in daily life. And here's the funny part. You probably wouldn't last even 10 minutes. Trust me, by the time the first bucket is hoisted, you'd be begging to go back to your comfy couch. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And, if you're feeling up to it, drop a comment below with your location and what time it is where you are. It's always fascinating to see where we're all listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stir from your modest sleeping mat just as the first rays of sunlight creep through the wooden shutters. The city outside is still rubbing its eyes, and you can hear the faint clatter of merchants setting up their stalls, along with the chirping of sparrows eager for crumbs. But there's no time to linger in bed. Today is laundry day, and whether you're ready or not, the laundry won't wait. With a groggy sigh, you sit up and glance around your simple room. A neat stack of clothes, now anything but neat, spills over from the corner, piled high with garments of every fabric imaginable. Heavy cotton tunics, embroidered vests, delicate silk scarves, all waiting, demanding to be washed. You groan softly, already dreading what lies ahead. Ottoman Laundry Day isn't just a quick rinse and a tumble dry. Oh no, it's a full-scale operation, one that begins before the sun fully rises and doesn't end until your arms ache, your feet are sore, and your back feels like it's aged 50 years. You pull on your simplest, loosest clothes, no sense in wearing anything fancy when you're about to get soaked, and tie a scarf over your head to keep the sweat from dripping into your eyes. Practicality over fashion, as they say. Then you start gathering the laundry piece by piece. Every corner of the house seems to hide something that needs washing. That shirt draped over the chair? Into the pile. The linen curtain that's gone grey from dust? Definitely going. Even the cushion covers, embroidered with tiny floral designs, are getting hauled along. You mutter to yourself, wondering how in the world so many things manage to get dirty at once. It's as if the walls themselves are conspiring to generate more work. Once everything is collected, you haul the bundle, now roughly the size of a small mountain, into a large cloth sack. It's astonishing how heavy fabric becomes when piled together. You practically need a donkey just to carry it. As you stagger under the weight, you realize this might actually be a competitive sport. Ottoman Laundry Lifting Championships. Now that would fill a stadium. You heave the sack onto your back, securing it with thick ropes that dig into your shoulders. The sensation is not pleasant. Your arms already burn, and you haven't even left the house yet. But there's no turning back now. Stepping outside, the city greets you with its usual morning chaos. Vendors shout about fresh dates and plump figs, street cats slink through alleyways in search of breakfast, and neighbours chat animatedly over steaming cups of coffee. You shuffle past them, the laundry pile threatening to topple with each step. The streets are narrow and winding, paved with uneven stones that have seen centuries of footsteps. Every few feet you have to sidestep a puddle or dodge a stray dog lounging in the sun. It's a scene straight out of a painting, if the painting featured you, hunched over and panting under a load of sweaty socks and bed sheets. Still, there's something oddly comforting about it all. The streets hum with life, and you can't help but admire how everyone, in their own way, is busy carrying something, whether it's baskets of bread, bundles of herbs, or, like you, mountains of laundry. You pause briefly to catch your breath near a fountain carved with intricate floral motifs. The cool spray offers a moment of relief, and you can't resist dipping your fingers into the water, savouring its icy touch against your flushed skin. Then, with a deep sigh, you press on. The communal washing station awaits. As you trudge forward, you wonder, half-jokingly, if there's the secret shortcut known only to the expert launderers of the city. Perhaps some hidden alley where the streets magically slope downhill, carrying you effortlessly toward the washing grounds. But no such luck today. It's just you, your aching muscles, and the towering sack of laundry, inching your way toward a long, sudsy day ahead. You chuckle to yourself, imagining how modern folks would survive this ordeal. No washing machines, no dryers, not even a laundry detergent commercial promising whiter whites. Just brute force buckets of water and enough soap to lather a camel. And believe it or not, some historians still argue over whether Ottoman laundry days were considered a social ritual or simply a necessity of survival. Either way, your journey is far from over. The bumpy cobblestones stretch ahead, and the sun climbs higher, promising heat, sweat, and plenty more adventure before the day is done. You shift your load, grit your teeth, and keep walking. After all, Ottoman laundry waits for no one. The sun rises steadily, casting golden light across the rooftops and making the stone streets shimmer with warmth. You adjust your grip on the bulky laundry sack and press on, weaving through the narrow, twisting alleys of Istanbul. Your feet slip slightly on the worn cobblestones, and for a moment you think wistfully of soft, carpeted floors. But there's no time for daydreaming. Laundry day is a commitment, a full-body workout disguised as a weekly chore. As you lumber along, you pass others making the same pilgrimage, their arms piled high with linens and garments. Some carry their bundles gracefully, with years of practice etched into every step. Others, like you, struggle under the weight, staggering and muttering under their breath. A few of them glance your way, offering knowing smiles. It's a silent camaraderie. The universal bond of people forced to carry way too much fabric before their morning tea. Finally, you reach your destination, the communal washing grounds, a sprawling courtyard shaded by fig trees and bordered by low stone walls. In the centre lies a wide marble basin filled with fresh water piped in from nearby springs. The scene here is bustling, but not chaotic. Women scrub clothes with practiced precision, their sleeves rolled up and their hands roughened from years of labour. The air is thick with the mingling scents of soap, sweat, and crushed herbs used as natural fabric softeners. You set down your sack with a groan that echoes off the walls, your shoulders grateful for the brief respite. As you glance around, you can't help but notice the intricate tile mosaics decorating the basin's edges, vibrant blues and greens forming patterns of swirling vines and blossoms. Even a place dedicated to scrubbing stains seems touched by artistry here. Nearby, a group of children chase each other, their laughter mingling with the steady rhythm of water sloshing and hand scrubbing. One little boy nearly barrels into you, his face flushed with excitement as he dodges his friends. You smile despite yourself. Laundry day may be exhausting, but it's also alive with simple joys. Before you can get too comfortable, a fellow washer, a woman with sharp eyes and arms like tree trunks, nods toward your bundle. "Better start now or you'll be here past sunset," she advises, her voice both kind and commanding. You nod, swallowing your dread, and begin the process. The first step is soaking. You haul your clothes into the cool water, watching as the fabric darkens and surrenders to the liquid's embrace. The sensation of plunging your arms into the basin is strangely soothing at first, like slipping into a quiet underwater world. But the relaxation doesn't last. Once everything is thoroughly drenched, it's time to scrub, and scrub, and scrub some more. You grab a wooden paddle, worn smooth by countless hands, and start attacking the fabric with slow, deliberate strokes. The repetitive motion is both mesmerizing and exhausting. Each slap of the paddle sends droplets flying, some landing on your face with a refreshing splash. As you work, you overhear snippets of conversation around you. One woman shares gossip about a merchant caught selling watered-down olive oil. Another discusses a recent wedding, complete with dramatic tales of runaway chickens and an uncle who drank too much pomegranate wine. You can't help but smile at the absurdity of it all. Here you are, elbow deep in suds, scrubbing stains with more determination than a cat chasing a mouse, and yet life still finds a way to entertain. A few minutes later, you catch sight of something peculiar. An older woman, dressed in layers of faded silk, carefully pouring a mixture into the water from a small clay jar. You lean closer, curious. It's fermented vinegar and crushed lavender blossoms, a homemade solution said to ward off moths and soften even the coarsest wool. Supposedly it also keeps away bad spirits, though that benefit is less scientifically proven. You wonder briefly if it would work on modern gym socks. Probably not. As you continue scrubbing, your muscles begin to protest. Your wrists ache, your shoulders burn, and your back has all but given up on maintaining proper posture. Still, you press on. There's a strange satisfaction in watching dirt and grime dissolve beneath your efforts, revealing colours you'd almost forgotten your clothes possessed. Some historians still debate whether laundry was seen as a spiritual cleansing as much as a physical one. In truth, after hours of this ordeal, you're starting to believe it. Suddenly a splash of cold water hits your face, snapping you out of your trance. You glance up to see a younger washer grinning mischievously, her eyes twinkling with playful challenge. Without missing a beat, you flick a handful of suds back in her direction. She laughs, and just like that, a full-scale splash battle erupts, drawing chuckles from everyone nearby. It's moments like these that remind you laundry day isn't just about dirt and drudgery. It's a ritual, a gathering, a shared experience of hard work and small, silly joys. As the sun climbs higher, you pause for a moment, wiping sweat from your brow with a damp sleeve. You glance around, watching others in various stages of the same battle against fabric and filth. And you realize something amusing. Modern folks may have their fancy machines and detergent pods, but you'd wager they've never known the peculiar thrill of conquering a stubborn stain with nothing but a wooden paddle, soap, and sheer willpower. Your thoughts drift as you return to your scrubbing, the rhythm steady and familiar, the world around you softened by the mingling scents of lavender, vinegar, and sunshine. Laundry day marches on. The hours stretch on as you keep scrubbing, and the courtyard hums with the steady sound of hands wringing, water sloshing, and voices weaving together like threads in a tapestry. You shift your weight from foot to foot, trying to relieve the dull ache creeping into your lower back. But there's no escaping it. Laundry day demands endurance. With every twist and wring, your arms grow heavier, but you're beginning to fall into a kind of rhythm, almost like a dance. Scrub, soak, wring, slap. Over and over. It's oddly hypnotic, like one of those modern exercise classes. But without the peppy instructor, and definitely without air conditioning. You notice an elderly woman seated near the fountain, calmly massaging soap into her linens. Her hands are weathered, yet graceful, moving with the precision of decades of practice. You can't help but admire her steady pace, how she seems to glide through the process while you're over here sweating like a goat in the desert. As you glance over, she catches your eye and offers a knowing smile. "The trick," she says, her voice like velvet worn soft with age, "is to let the soap do the work, not your back." You chuckle softly, grateful for the advice, and she leans closer, lowering her voice to share a little secret. You know, she begins, a playful glimmer in her eye. There's an old remedy for tough stains that most young folk have forgotten. Crushed olive pits mixed with ash from fig branches. She leans back with a satisfied nod. Works every time, even on wine spills. You blink in surprise, trying to imagine rubbing burnt fig ash onto your clothes. It sounds like something out of a questionable beauty blog, but here in the Ottoman Empire, it's considered cutting-edge science. As you mull over this peculiar tip, a loud cheer erupts nearby. You turn to see a group gathered around a woman proudly displaying a pair of newly brightened linen trousers, once dingy and grey, now dazzlingly white in the sunlight. Apparently she's used another secret method involving goat's milk and lemon juice, a combination that sounds more like a failed dessert than a cleaning agent. You make a mental note to keep your laundry far from the pantry in the future. Still, there's something charming about how every corner of the courtyard seems to hold a new laundry miracle. One woman swears by crushed pomegranate peel for dyeing fabrics a deep, rich red. Another insists that boiling clothes with rosemary sprigs keeps them smelling fresh for weeks. The sheer variety of techniques makes your head spin. It's as if half the city's apothecaries moonlight as laundry consultants. You let your mind wander as you continue scrubbing, the soap forming thick white clouds around your fingers. There's something oddly satisfying about watching the water slowly turn murky, carrying away all the grime and sweat of daily life. But then you hear a sudden shriek, a piercing yelp that slices through the usual chorus of chatter and splashing. Everyone freezes, heads snapping toward the commotion. Turns out one poor soul accidentally dropped an entire bundle of clean clothes straight into a mud puddle near the entrance. The sight of her frantically scooping up the garments, now dripping with mud and crushed herbs, sends a ripple of sympathetic gasps through the crowd. You wince on her behalf, imagining the horror of having to start over from scratch. Laundry day is already long enough without unexpected setbacks like that. Still, even this mishap draws a few chuckles. After all, what else can you do but laugh when fate decides to throw a little extra dirt your way? As the sun inches higher, your body grows more sluggish. You pause for a moment, leaning heavily on your wooden paddle, and glance around again. It's then you notice something you hadn't paid much attention to before. The small bundles of herbs hanging from nearby posts, their leaves swaying gently in the breeze. Apparently, these fragrant offerings aren't just for decoration. Locals believe they ward off mischievous spirits that might curse your laundry, or worse, cause it to go missing. You can't help but smirk at the idea of spectral thieves making off with your undergarments. But then again, considering how easily your socks disappear back home, maybe those old beliefs aren't as far-fetched as they seem. Some historians still debate whether these superstitions stem from ancient folk tales or were simply creative ways to explain why laundry sometimes vanished mysteriously in communal spaces. Either way, you're tempted to pluck a sprig of rosemary and tuck it into your belt, just to be safe. Better to smell like a roasted chicken than risk losing your only clean tunic. You stretch your arms, feeling the pull of tired muscles, and glance up at the bright blue sky overhead. The fig trees offer dappled patches of shade, their broad leaves fluttering lazily in the warm breeze. The air feels thick with heat and humidity, but there's also a strange sense of peace here, an unspoken understanding that everyone in this courtyard is in the same boat, paddling through soap and sweat together. It's humbling, really, to think that something as mundane as laundry could unite strangers, weaving their lives together with every wrung-out cloth and shared laugh. You let your hands drift back into the water, savouring its coolness, and close your eyes for just a moment. Somehow, despite the aching muscles, despite the endless scrubbing, there's nowhere else you'd rather be right now. Laundry day may be exhausting, but it has its charms. You shift your aching legs and reach once again for the next item in your seemingly endless pile of laundry. This time it's a large woolen blanket, thick and stubborn, its fibres coarse against your fingertips. You groan softly. This one will take serious effort. Dunking it into the cool basin, you watch as the blanket greedily soaks up the water, growing even heavier in your hands. You pull and knead, feeling as though you're wrestling with some aquatic beast from a forgotten legend. Scrubbing wool requires patience. You can't be too rough, or the fibres will shrink and warp, leaving you with a blanket fit only for a doll's bed. You begin working in slow circles, easing the soap into the fabric, and you hear your fellow washers discussing the tricky business of wool care. One woman shares an old trick, rinsing wool with a broth of rosemary and mint to keep it soft and smelling fresh. You raise an eyebrow at that, washing clothes with what sounds like soup. You stifle a chuckle, imagining yourself tossing in a few croutons to complete the dish. Another woman overhearing chimes in with an even stranger tip. She swears that soaking wool garments overnight in goat's milk will prevent them from becoming stiff. You blink, unable to tell whether she's serious or pulling your leg. You begin to suspect that in the Ottoman Empire, laundry isn't just a chore, it's a competitive sport in folk remedies. Yet, as your arms grow tired from the slow massaging motions, you start to understand the appeal. There's something almost meditative about it, this repetitive kneading and swishing, as though you're coaxing the very soul of the fabric to relax under your touch. Nearby, another washer recounts a famous tale about a wool merchant who went mad after losing his entire inventory to moths. Moths said to have been summoned by a jealous rival through a secret curse involving walnut leaves and a silver comb. You grin at the absurdity. Laundry day is apparently a perfect breeding ground for bizarre stories. Perhaps it's the heat, or maybe it's the fumes from all the soap and herbs, but somehow these tales seem perfectly believable in this setting. You lean back for a moment, stretching your sore shoulders as you watch the bustling scene around you. There's something fascinating about the dynamics here. Everyone has a role, an unspoken rhythm that keeps the place running smoothly. The older women lead with authority, their every motion precise and efficient. The younger ones watch closely, eager to learn the subtle arts of stain removal and fabric care. Children scurry around the edges, tasked with filling buckets or gathering dry branches for the fires used to heat the rinse water. Every now and then they're rewarded with scraps of bread or pieces of dried fruit, fueling their endless energy. And then, of course, there are the men, rare visitors to this space, usually sent to deliver firewood or fetch clean water from the nearby well. They keep their eyes low, careful not to linger too long under the sharp gazes of the women in charge. You can't help but smirk, thinking how some things never change. Even centuries later, laundry rooms everywhere seem to have their own rules, their own hierarchy of knowledge and quiet authority. As you finally wring out the last of the water from the stubborn blanket, your hands ache, and your fingers are pruned from the constant soaking. But there's also a flicker of pride as you watch the once grimy wool now gleaming in the sunlight, smelling faintly of lavender and mint. You haul it over to the drying area, a series of wooden racks and thick ropes strung between trees. The air here is heavy with the mingled scents of clean linen, fresh herbs, and distant sea breezes drifting in from the Bosphorus. You carefully drape the blanket over the line, smoothing out the wrinkles with tender hands. There's an art to hanging laundry too. You must position it just right to catch the wind, ensuring it dries evenly without becoming stiff or misshapen. As you step back to admire your handiwork, a soft breeze stirs the fabric, setting the entire line of clothes and linens gently swaying, like sails on a ship. It's a strangely beautiful sight, and for a brief moment you feel a deep connection to every person who's ever stood in this spot, hanging their clothes under the same sun, feeling the same wind. Some historians still debate whether these communal washing spaces served as informal social hubs, where gossip and news travelled faster than the city's own messengers. Looking around, you'd wager those historians are probably right. Everywhere people are sharing news, some mundane, some scandalous. You catch snippets about a baker's daughter betrothed to a spice merchant, and whispers of a ship arriving from Venice carrying exotic fabrics and strange spices. There's talk of politics too, murmured in hushed tones, tales of court intrigue, tax collectors, and distant battles that feel a world away from this steamy courtyard. But no matter the subject, the rhythm of the washing continues, steady as a heartbeat. You sit for a moment in the shade, letting your hands rest and your eyes drift over the scene before you. The work isn't done, far from it, but there's comfort in knowing that here, surrounded by suds and sunlight, you're part of a tradition older than you can comprehend. And as ridiculous as it may sound, you find yourself thinking, modern laundry days don't hold a candle to this. Here, it's not just about clean clothes, it's about connection, it's about stories, it's about sharing the weight in more ways than one. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the breeze wash over you as the scent of lavender and rosemary fills your lungs. Laundry day continues and somehow you don't mind one bit. Your arms still throb from wrestling that woolen beast of a blanket, but there's no time to rest for long. The pile beside you looms, still sizable, still demanding, like a greedy house guest that simply refuses to leave. You glance around the courtyard, watching the others work, and realize how every single person here has their own method, their own little tricks and quirks. Some prefer beating the clothes rhythmically against smooth stones, their movements almost musical, whap, whap, swish. Others kneel over wooden boards carved with delicate grooves, scrubbing away with brushes made from bundled reeds. You try to mimic the older woman's advice from earlier. Let the soap do the work, not your back. But frankly, you suspect she may have been stretching the truth. This soap seems content to sit there, lounging around, making you do all the labour. Still you persist, scrubbing diligently, when suddenly your ears catch wind of a new conversation nearby. One woman with bright eyes and a mischievous grin is recounting the tale of the soapmaker's scandal, a story clearly meant for entertainment more than accuracy. She speaks of a man from Bursa, famed for crafting the finest olive oil soap in the region. Supposedly his secret ingredient wasn't just premium oil, it was a rare blend of rose petals, aged goat fat, and, according to local rumour, just a pinch of crushed pearls. Yes, pearls. You nearly laugh out loud at the absurdity of it. Crushed pearls in soap? That's not laundry detergent, that's luxury skincare. But the woman continues, her voice dripping with mock seriousness. She claims that once the secret got out, the man's soap became so coveted that nobles began hoarding it, using it not only to wash their garments but also their hair, their faces, and in one famously ridiculous case, their horses. Of course, historians still argue about whether the story holds any truth, or if it's simply another fanciful tale born from too many lazy afternoons spent scrubbing in the sun. You're inclined to believe it's the latter. After all, you doubt anyone in their right mind would waste pearls on socks. But still, you can't help but wonder what it would be like to lather up with something so decadent. Your thoughts drift as you continue scrubbing, the soap foaming thickly under your hands. You start to imagine how that pearl-infused soap might smell, delicate, floral, with the faintest hint of the sea. Before you know it, your current garment is clean, rinsed, and ready for drying. You wring it out carefully, twisting the fabric with a practiced motion that you never knew you possessed before today. Then comes another tricky task, carrying your bundle of freshly washed clothes to the upper terrace of the courtyard, where the sun hits strongest. You gather the dripping garments in your arms, water cascading down your elbows and soaking your sleeves. The stairs leading upward are narrow and slick with moisture, and each step feels like a gamble. You grip the wooden rail tightly, muttering under your breath about how no one warns you about the dangers of laundry-related acrobatics. At the top, the view takes your breath away, not because of the height, but because of the sight below. The entire courtyard is a kaleidoscope of colour. Bright white linens sway alongside indigo-dyed tunics. Embroidered silk scarves ripple like banners in the breeze, and woolen rugs hang heavy but dignified, their intricate patterns glowing under the afternoon sun. It's oddly mesmerizing. Like watching a slow-motion dance of fabric and wind, each piece telling a story of its own. You find a clear space among the ropes and carefully begin hanging your clothes. Here, on the terrace, the rules are strict. Heavier items go first, positioned to catch the full strength of the sun, and shield the lighter, more delicate pieces from harsh rays. You follow suit, layering thick cottons and wools before moving on to silks and linens. You can feel the heat radiating from the walls around you, the sun turning the stones into warm ovens beneath your feet. Sweat trickles down your temple, but there's also a strange satisfaction in seeing your hard work displayed like this, clean, fresh, and shimmering in the light. As you adjust the clothespins, simple wooden pegs carved by hand, you overhear another curious tidbit from the women chatting nearby. Apparently some in the city believe that drying your clothes under a full moon will imbue them with special properties. Whiter whites, softer textures, even protection from illness, if you're willing to stay up all night tending to them. You shake your head, amused once more by the seemingly endless supply of laundry superstitions. You've now heard everything from fig ash to moonlight rituals, and frankly, you wouldn't be surprised if someone suggested singing lullabies to their bed sheets. Still, part of you can't help but enjoy the strangeness of it all. Modern life has stripped away so many little rituals, reducing laundry to the press of a button. Here, every step is deliberate, every action infused with intention, and yes, maybe just a dash of whimsy. You finish hanging the last item and step back, admiring your handiwork. The fabrics ripple gently in the breeze, casting shifting shadows on the terrace floor. You watch them for a while, feeling the soothing pull of their slow, rhythmic movement. It's easy to forget your sore arms, your aching back, and the sweat dripping from your brow when you're watching something so quietly beautiful. Somewhere down below, you hear the faint jingle of bells from a street vendor, followed by the familiar soothing tones of a neighbour's flute. The world beyond the laundry courtyard feels distant, like a faraway land you'll visit later, after the last cloth has dried and the last rope has been cleared. For now, it's just you, the sun, and the soft, contented sway of freshly washed clothes, moving like ghostly dancers in the summer air. And as you sit for a moment in the sun-drenched stillness, you can't help but think, there are worse ways to spend a day. The afternoon stretches onward, and as the sun begins its slow descent, the courtyard transforms yet again. Shadows lengthen, softening the harsh edges of stone walls and wooden beams. The earlier chaos settles into a quiet lull as most of the heavy scrubbing is done. And now it's a matter of waiting. You sit beneath a fig tree, its broad leaves casting dappled patterns across your arms and face. The breeze picks up, bringing with it the scent of warm soap and faint traces of basil from a nearby kitchen. You lean back against the cool stone, muscles humming from exertion, and allow yourself a rare moment of calm. Nearby, you notice a group of women gathered around a shallow basin, their hands moving swiftly as they begin the process of whitening fabrics, a task that requires both patience and precision. You wander over, curiosity getting the better of you. The women are expertly working a mixture that looks suspiciously like wet clay, smoothing it over the cloth with flat wooden spatulas. "It's called Fuller's Earth," one of them explains, noticing your puzzled expression. "A type of fine clay that pulls out oils and brightens the fabric." Mamsa. She speaks with such authority that you immediately accept it as fact, though in your mind you're already making comparisons to modern stain removers and detergent commercials with blinding white towels spinning in slow motion. Another washer, her hands stained faintly grey from the clay, adds with a grin, "Some say it's even better than soap, and it keeps the moths away too, though I wouldn't recommend eating it." You chuckle, appreciating the dry humour. You're fairly certain someone, somewhere, has indeed tried eating it. Humans have always had a knack for testing questionable ideas. As you watch them work, you notice something else. Many of the women are chanting softly, almost in unison. Their voices rise and fall gently, weaving through the warm air like threads through a loom. You ask about the song, and one of the women smiles warmly. "It's an old working chant," she explains, "passed down from our grandmothers and their grandmothers before them. Helps keep the hands moving and the mind steady." The melody is simple, repetitive, but soothing. You find yourself swaying slightly to its rhythm, your breath falling in time with the soft cadence of their voices. It's in that moment you realize this isn't just a chore, it's a ritual. A shared act that binds generations together, stitched through with stories, laughter, and yes, a fair share of soap bubbles. Some historians still argue whether such songs were purely for practical reasons, to maintain work pace, or if they carried deeper meanings, perhaps even linked to old folk magic. Standing here surrounded by the gentle hum of voices and the earthy scent of clay, you suspect it's a bit of both. You return to your spot beneath the fig tree, letting the music drift around you like a soft blanket. A few other launderers join you, forming a small circle of tired bodies resting in the fading light. Soon the conversation shifts from soap and stains to more unusual topics. One woman, known for her sharp wit, begins recounting tales of laundry mishaps, some real, some likely exaggerated beyond belief. She tells of a merchant who once lost his prized silk robes after they were mistakenly mixed with the laundry of a visiting caravan. The robes, embroidered with gold threads and delicate beadwork, supposedly ended up halfway across the empire before anyone realized they were missing. The group erupts in laughter, some shaking their heads at the absurdity of it all. "And the poor man?" you ask, grinning. "Oh," she replies, eyes twinkling. "He swore off silk forever and became a dealer in wool instead. Said it was safer for his sanity." You can't help but laugh at that, imagining the frustration of trying to chase down runaway silk robes across desert trade routes. As the laughter fades, another woman leans in, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "They say," she whispers, "that some women can tell fortunes by watching how the soap bubbles rise. You blink in surprise, certain you must have misheard." "It's true," she insists, her tone teasing yet sincere. "Watch closely while you scrub. If the bubbles form a perfect circle and drift toward you, it means good fortune is coming. But if they scatter and pop too quickly..." She trails off, wagging a playful finger. You laugh, though part of you is tempted to test it out the next time you're elbow deep in suds. It's strangely comforting to think that even laundry has its omens. You stretch your legs out, feeling the warmth of the stone beneath you, and watch as others begin checking their clothes on the drying lines, fingers pressing into fabric to test for dampness. The sun now hangs low in the sky, casting everything in a soft amber glow. The courtyard feels almost enchanted, half in shadow, half bathed in gold. You know there's still work ahead, folding, sorting, hauling everything home, but for now there's peace in this shared pause. You take a deep breath, letting the mingling scents of soap, herbs, and sun-warmed cloth fill your lungs. and you realize that you've somehow found comfort in this exhausting, sudsy ritual. It's not just about clean clothes anymore. It's about the rhythm of the day, the stories shared, the small magic hidden in bubbles and clay. You smile to yourself, content in the knowledge that, against all odds, you've survived another Ottoman laundry day, at least so far. And as you close your eyes for just a moment, you swear you can still hear the soft singing weaving through the breeze like a lullaby, carrying you deeper into this strange, timeless world of soap and sunlight. The sun sinks lower, and the warm amber light deepens into a rich, honeyed hue, casting long shadows across the courtyard. You stretch your back, your joints popping in quiet protest, and glance at the drying lines, watching the fabrics flutter lazily in the soft evening breeze. It's almost time to start gathering everything, but first, there's rinsing. You sigh, knowing this part is just as critical as all the scrubbing and soaking you've done earlier. Without a thorough rinse, your freshly washed clothes will stiffen into boards, or worse, itch like nettles. Dragging yourself to the rinsing station, a long marble trough lined with spigots, you dip your hands into the cool water, letting it rush over your fingers for a brief moment before starting the next task. One by one, you submerge the garments again, swishing them gently to loosen the last of the soap and clay. The water quickly grows cloudy, swirling with suds and faint traces of herb oils. As you work, your fingers grow numb from the chill, but honestly, it's a relief after a day spent sweating under the relentless sun. You relish the refreshing sting of cool water, even as your arms ache from lifting and squeezing each heavy, dripping piece. Across from you, another woman rinses her laundry with practiced ease. She smiles knowingly at your slow, clumsy pace. "You'll get faster," she says with a soft chuckle. "Your hands will learn what to do before your mind even thinks of it." You nod, smiling back, though you suspect your hands might revolt before they ever reach that point. As you keep rinsing, she leans in a little closer and lowers her voice. "Did anyone tell you about the soapstones?" she asks, eyes glimmering with the excitement of sharing a secret. You blink, curiosity piqued. "Soapstones?" She nods, reaching into her satchel to produce a small, smooth, oval-shaped rock, polished to a soft sheen. "They're passed down in my family," she explains. "River stones, rubbed smooth over generations. We believe they carry the luck of all the women who've used them before." She places it in your hand. It's surprisingly warm, almost as if it holds its own quiet heartbeat. "They're not just for scrubbing," she says. "They hold wishes." You laugh softly, charmed by the notion. It's hard to imagine anyone in modern times rubbing their clothes with a magic rock, unless of course it came with a hefty price tag and a celebrity endorsement. Still, there's something touching about the idea. A family heirloom that has weathered centuries of rinse cycles and still carries the whispers of those who came before. Some historians still debate whether such objects were genuinely believed to bring luck, or whether they were simply kept for sentiment, tokens of connection to mothers and grandmothers long gone. But as you turn the stone over in your hand, feeling its smooth surface, you think, maybe it doesn't really matter which is true. You return the stone with a grateful smile, then plunge your hands back into the water, determined to finish strong. As the last garments are rinsed and wrung out, the mood in the courtyard begins to shift again. People move with slower, more deliberate motions, voices softer, movements tinged with fatigue and quiet satisfaction. The chatter drifts toward evening plans. Who's preparing what for supper, whether the fishmonger still has fresh mackerel, and which neighbour's cat has been sneaking into the bread baskets again. Someone nearby jokes that they've worked hard enough to deserve a feast of lamb and honey cakes, with a side of baklava the size of a wagon wheel. You chuckle, stomach grumbling at the mere thought. As you stand, shaking out your damp hands and wiping them on your tunic, you notice the first flicker of lantern light in the distance. The city beyond the courtyard begins to glow softly, one window at a time, like a field of tiny stars winking into existence. You gather your rinsed clothes and begin carrying them back to the drying lines. The fabrics are noticeably lighter now, relieved of their heavy soap and dirt. The scent, too, has changed. Less sharp, more mellow, tinged with rosemary, olive oil, and something faintly smoky from the clay. As you hang them once more, this time for their final stretch under the cooling sky, you can't help but admire how they look. Soft, clean, almost glowing in the fading sunlight. You stand back and smile, feeling a strange swell of pride. Maybe you're not the fastest or most graceful laundress here, but you've survived this far, and honestly that feels like a victory worth celebrating. Nearby, a woman calls out, teasing you gently. First-timers' hands always ache the worst, she says, holding up her own, calloused, strong, but gentle. But they also learn the most. You grin and flex your sore fingers. She's right. Every ache feels earned, every wrinkle in your skin a quiet badge of honor. And just as you think the day can't get any stranger, another woman casually mentions that some believe hanging clothes in a crisscross pattern wards off envy and misfortune. You laugh, shaking your head in disbelief. I swear, you mutter under your breath. By the time I leave this place, I'll believe my laundry has a social life of its own. But somewhere deep down, you're beginning to understand why people cling to these traditions, these little rituals and odd beliefs. Because in the midst of aching muscles, endless scrubbing, and soaked feet, there's something deeply human about it all. The shared labour, the laughter, the small victories, like a stubborn stain finally surrendering, or a breeze catching just right. As you lean against the wall, watching your clothes sway gently in the evening light, you realize that laundry here isn't just about washing away dirt. It's about connection, to others, to yourself, to history. And in this quiet, lingering moment, surrounded by soap bubbles and sunset, you find yourself smiling, genuinely, peacefully, without a trace of irony. Laundry day isn't over yet, but you wouldn't mind if it never really ended at all. As the evening deepens, a cooler breeze sweeps through the courtyard, carrying away the lingering heat of the day. The stone walls slowly release their stored warmth, and the rhythmic creaking of wooden drying racks becomes the new background music, blending with the soft murmur of tired voices. You shift your weight, easing your aching legs, and watch as others begin folding their dried garments. Their hands move with quiet efficiency, flipping and smoothing each piece with graceful precision, as though they've done it 1,000 times, and they probably have. With a resigned sigh, you pull yourself to your feet and shuffle toward the drying lines, feeling every muscle protest with each step. You reach for a linen tunic, now dry and crisp, and test it between your fingers. Still warm from the sun, it carries the faint scent of rosemary, sun-baked cotton, and something else you can't quite place. Maybe a hint of wood smoke from the clay pots used earlier. As you begin folding it, a woman nearby notices your clumsy, awkward attempts and lets out a gentle laugh. You'll never fold anything properly while standing like that, she teases, nodding toward a low stone bench nearby. You raise an eyebrow, skeptical. Trust me, she says with a grin. Laundry must be folded sitting down. It keeps your back straight and your folds neater. You can't tell if this is another one of those peculiar Ottoman laundry superstitions, or simply a ploy to get you off your feet. But either way, you're too tired to argue. You plop down onto the bench, and she's right. The pressure eases from your legs almost immediately. You sigh in relief, and she gives you an approving nod before returning to her own pile of neatly stacked linens. As you fold, your fingers gradually learn the rhythm. Smooth, align, press, fold. It's almost hypnotic, like a slow dance between cloth and hand. A soft hum drifts from the far corner of the courtyard. Someone has begun singing again. This time it's a lullaby. One of those old melodies that feels as if it's been around since time itself began. The words are simple, about the sea and the wind, about waiting for loved ones to return home safely. The melody wraps itself around the courtyard like a comforting shawl, weaving through the air, soothing frayed nerves. You glance at the women around you, many of whom have joined in, their voices low and steady, blending effortlessly with the night sounds creeping in from beyond the walls. It strikes you then how strange, how beautiful it is, that even after a day of back-breaking labour, there is still energy left for singing. Some historians still puzzle over whether these old songs carried hidden meanings, perhaps coded messages or protective charms disguised as work tunes. You listen closely, wondering if you can pick up any secret wisdom hidden in the lyrics. But all you hear is comfort, longing, and the steady pulse of human connection. The folding continues under the soft glow of oil lamps, which have been lit and placed strategically around the courtyard. Their flames flicker and dance in the breeze, casting warm pools of light that seem to hold back the creeping darkness. You can see now how easily laundry day becomes nightfall. It's not a task that runs by the clock, but rather by the sun, the wind, and the collective pace of those gathered here. One woman nearby begins sharing another story, this time about a mysterious laundry thief said to roam the city during festival nights. According to her tale, the thief targets drying lines, making off with the most finely embroidered garments, and leaving behind nothing but a single rosemary sprig tied with twine, a sort of mocking calling card. The women around you chuckle and gasp in equal measure, some claiming they've heard of this rogue, others swearing they know someone whose laundry has vanished under such mysterious circumstances. You smirk as you fold, amused by yet another charming absurdity of laundry lore. I suppose that's why everyone's hanging rosemary everywhere, you muse aloud, drawing a few knowing glances and laughs. Exactly, one woman says with a wink. It's not just for the moths, you know. You glance down at your growing stack of folded laundry, feeling a surprising sense of accomplishment. Tired as you are, there's something deeply satisfying about seeing the fruits of your labour neatly piled, each piece softened by soap, sun, and shared laughter. You can't help but imagine how different laundry day would look in the modern world. No wooden paddles, no singing, no shared stories or clay mixtures. Just machines humming behind closed doors, out of sight and mind. Here, every step is an act of presence, a task that requires your full body, your attention, your patience. And strangely, it's kind of wonderful. You pause to stretch your arms overhead, savouring the cool air and the faint soreness that now feels more like a badge of honour than a burden. The lamps flicker softly as you watch others finish their folding, their faces glowing in the amber light, their hands moving steadily with practiced ease. This isn't just laundry, it's a ritual. A reminder that even in the simplest, most mundane tasks, there's room for beauty, humour, and human connection. You smile as you gather your final folded piece and stack it atop the others, your pile now complete. Night has fully descended now, but no one seems in a rush to leave. The courtyard feels timeless, suspended in this shared space between work and rest, between effort and reward. And as you sit there, quietly enjoying the stillness, you realize something quite unexpected. You're not just surviving laundry day anymore. You're starting to love it. The night wraps itself around the courtyard like a velvet curtain, soft and comforting, yet heavy with the scent of damp linen, cooling stones, and distant spices drifting from nearby kitchens preparing their evening meals. You sit quietly, staring at your neatly folded pile of clothes, and feel a rare sense of accomplishment, not just for the clean laundry, but for enduring the full rhythm of the day without collapsing completely. Around you, others have begun gathering their things. some slipping folded garments into large woven baskets, others carefully stacking them into bundles tied with thick ropes. The air is filled with hushed conversation and the occasional burst of laughter, the mood lighter now that the hardest tasks are finished. You reach for your own bundle, but before you can lift it, the same older woman from earlier, the one with the soapstone, settles beside you, a knowing smile tugging at her lips. "You've done well today," she says, her voice carrying the calm weight of someone who has seen many laundry days come and go. You offer a sheepish grin, flexing your sore hands. "I'm not sure my body agrees," you reply with a chuckle. She laughs softly, the sound as gentle as the breeze rustling the nearby drying lines. "Your body will remember," she says simply. "It always does." She leans forward, reaching into her satchel once more, and pulls out a small cloth-wrapped parcel. Without a word, she presses it into your hands. You glance down, surprised by the unexpected gift. Unwrapping it slowly, you discover a bar of handmade soap, pale green infused with crushed bay leaves and something floral, perhaps jasmine. The scent is faint but soothing, like a summer garden after rain. "It's for your next laundry day," she explains, eyes twinkling, "to remind you that every task can carry its own small reward." You're touched by the gesture, unsure of what to say. She simply nods, as if to say no need for words, and rises to gather her own things. Some historians still debate whether such gifts were customary among Ottoman laundresses, or simply tokens exchanged between those who endured long, hard days together. You watch her disappear into the crowd, the soap resting warm and solid in your palm, and you decide you like to believe it's a bit of both. You slip the soap carefully into your bundle, tucking it between two soft towels, and finally begin lifting the load onto your back. The weight feels familiar now, still heavy but no longer daunting. There's a rhythm to it, a balance between the strain and the steady support of your body adapting to the task. As you prepare to leave, you overhear one final conversation that makes you pause. A younger woman is asking about a peculiar ritual she'd heard from an aunt. Something about burying a sliver of old soap near the front door to ward off bad luck and attract prosperity. The others laugh, teasing her gently, but she insists it works, swearing her aunt has never had a single stain stick since she started the practice. You chuckle softly as you listen, shaking your head in amusement. You've now heard of laundry being tied to everything from moth prevention and fortune-telling to moonlight blessings and soap-burying charms. You wonder, only half-joking, whether your modern neighbours would be as enthusiastic about washing machines if they came with instructions involving moon phases and herbal offerings. As you take your first steps toward the courtyard's exit, your bundle steady on your back, you glance around one last time. The courtyard is quieter now, the oil lamps flickering softly, casting long shadows across the worn stone floor. Only a few women remain, finishing their folding or chatting in hushed voices as they gather their things. The drying lines sway gently in the cool night breeze, empty now but still carrying the faint scent of soap and sun. It's a sight you won't soon forget, a tapestry of lives intertwined by something as simple as laundry, stitched together by sweat, song, and shared stories. You step into the narrow streets beyond the courtyard, the city humming softly in the distance, and feel the strange magic of the day still lingering around you. Somehow laundry day has become more than just a chore. It's a rite of passage, a quiet adventure, and, in its own odd way, a memory you'll carry with you, wrapped in the scent of bay leaves and jasmine, tucked between folded linens, waiting to be unfolded again someday. You adjust your bundle, smile to yourself, and begin the slow, steady walk home, your heart a little lighter, your hands a little stronger, and your mind already drifting towards the next time the soap bubbles rise. The streets outside the courtyard are quieter now, bathed in the soft glow of hanging lanterns swaying gently in the evening breeze. You shift the bundle of laundry on your back, adjusting the weight so it rests more comfortably against your shoulders, and begin the slow walk home. The city feels different at this hour, less hurried, more contemplative. The usual shouts of merchants and clatter of cartwheels have faded into softer sounds. The distant strum of a saz from an open window, the low murmur of neighbours sharing news over dinner, the occasional bark of a street dog settling into its corner for the night. Your feet move almost automatically along the winding alleys, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The laundry's weight has become oddly familiar, like an old friend leaning heavily against your back. You pause at a small well along the way, its stone edges cool under your palms. You let the bundle rest for a moment and cup your hands to scoop up a bit of water, splashing it on your face. The chill wakes you up just enough to appreciate how tired you truly are. As you wipe your face dry with the edge of your sleeve, you overhear two older men chatting nearby, seated on low stools outside a tea house. Their conversation drifts lazily through the air, one of them recounting a curious story about a famous laundry-related dispute from decades ago. Apparently in a nearby village, there had been a fierce rivalry between two washer families, each claiming to possess the only true method for producing the whitest linens. Things escalated dramatically when one family accused the other of stealing their secret soap recipe. The accusation sparked such an uproar that the local magistrate had to intervene, demanding both families present their methods in a public washing contest. The tale takes a humorous turn when the storyteller describes the dramatic wash-off, with townsfolk gathered to watch, placing bets on which soap would triumph. In the end, neither family won. The rain came down in torrents midway through the event, drenching everyone and washing away both the suds and the suspense. The two men laugh heartily at the punchline, their voices echoing softly in the stillness of the street. You can't help but chuckle under your breath. Another ridiculous chapter in the ever-growing book of laundry legends. Some historians still debate whether such stories were exaggerated over time, or if they began as kernels of truth, twisted by retellings under lamplight and cups of thick, sweet tea. But honestly, whether fact or fiction, they make the quiet walk home far more entertaining. You hoist your bundle once again and continue onward, the streets gradually sloping uphill toward your neighbourhood. Along the way you pass by homes with open shutters, catching glimpses of families gathered around low tables, their laughter spilling out into the night. You spot one house with linens already folded and stacked neatly on a wooden shelf just inside the door, ready to be tucked away for the week ahead. It's a comforting sight, proof that others too have survived their day at the wash basin, their homes now filled with the scent of clean fabric and well-earned rest. As you approach your own door, you pause and glance back down the winding street, watching the way the lamplight pools in the corners and how the shadows stretch along the walls. The city is still alive, but softer now, wrapped in a kind of hushed reverence that only comes with nightfall after a long day's labour. You push open your door and step inside, the familiar creak of the wood greeting you like an old friend. Carefully you set down your bundle, the strain lifting from your shoulders at last. The weight gone, you feel strangely lighter, almost as if you've shed not just the laundry, but every worry and ache from the day. You take a moment to stretch, arms reaching toward the ceiling, savouring the pool of sore muscles that somehow feel stronger now than they did this morning. In the quiet of your home, you begin to unpack your clean clothes, folding them once again, this time with even more care, knowing they carry not just the softness of soap and sun, but the laughter, stories, and strange magic of the communal wash. And as you smooth your hand over the final folded piece, your fingers brush against the small bar of gifted soap, still nestled safely among the linens, its scent faint but comforting. You pause, lifting it gently, and smile. Somewhere deep inside, you know you'll return to that courtyard again. Not because you must, but because you want to. Because tucked between the rituals of soaking and scrubbing, among the bubbles and banter, there's something timeless waiting for you. A reminder that even the simplest, most repetitive tasks can carry within them a kind of quiet joy if you're willing to notice. You place the soap back down, carefully, as if preserving a secret. Then, with the night settling in fully around you, you blow out the lantern and crawl into bed, your body humming from exhaustion, but your mind oddly at peace. And just before sleep claims you, you think, half amused, half sincere, maybe laundry day wasn't so boring after all. Morning comes softly, slipping through the shutters in gentle streams of light, but your body is in no rush to rise. You lie there for a while, wrapped in the lingering comfort of freshly laundered sheets, still carrying the faint scent of sun-warmed soap and rosemary. Everything feels softer somehow, from the cotton against your skin to the way the morning air drifts lazily through the window. You stretch, wincing slightly as your muscles remind you of yesterday's efforts, each ache a quiet echo of the work you did. You sit up slowly, letting your feet touch the cool floor, and glance toward the neat pile of folded clothes stacked near the door. They look so serene, so perfectly at rest, as if they've never known the chaos of yesterday's scrubbing and wringing. There's something deeply satisfying about that quiet stack, as though it holds not just the cleanliness of fabric, but the memory of a day well spent. You smile to yourself, amused at how much pride you take in something as simple as laundry. But of course, laundry here isn't merely a chore, it's woven into every corner of daily life. Later that morning, as you sip your cup of strong black tea, you overhear your neighbours chatting outside, their voices drifting in through the open window. They're already discussing their next laundry day. Apparently there's talk of a travelling merchant passing through the city soon, bringing with him rare powders said to whiten fabrics instantly, some exotic blend of ground limestone and crushed almond shells. You nearly choke on your tea. Almond shells? You laugh softly to yourself, shaking your head. It seems there's no end to the peculiar methods people will try to achieve whiter linens. One of the neighbours insists that she's heard this method works miracles, while another scoffs, claiming that nothing can beat a proper scrub with bay laurel soap and a bit of vinegar boiled with orange peels. The debate grows more spirited, each woman passionately defending her preferred method, throwing in everything from secret family recipes to moon phase rituals. Some historians still argue whether these remedies were more about actual effectiveness or simply a way to add some drama to the weekly grind. Honestly, you think it's likely both, because here in the Ottoman Empire, even something as mundane as laundry becomes an art form, an excuse for friendly competition, and a source of endless conversation. You lean back in your chair, letting the breeze carry in the spirited chatter, and think about how much simpler and lonelier modern laundry feels by comparison. No stories, no laughter, no whispered superstitions passed from one washer to another. Just a button to press, and silence. You shake off the thought, returning your focus to the morning around you. Soon, you'll need to sort through your clothes again, organising them by season, setting aside the more delicate items for mending, perhaps even adding a few sprigs of dried lavender to the linen chest, like you saw the older women do yesterday. But for now, you let yourself enjoy the quiet, the peace that only comes after everything has been scrubbed, rinsed, and folded. There's something almost sacred about it. And as you sit there, sipping your tea, you suddenly remember another odd little superstition one of the women mentioned in passing. Something about keeping a small piece of thread from your clean laundry tucked inside your shoe for good fortune. You chuckle to yourself, amused but also a little tempted to try it. After all, after surviving an entire Ottoman laundry day, you've learned to never underestimate the power of peculiar traditions. You glance at your folded clothes again, feeling a quiet, steady pride. Not just for the work you've done, but for the strange, unexpected joy you've discovered in it. Because somehow between the aching arms, the swirling soap bubbles, and the shared laughter of strangers, laundry day has taught you something important. There's beauty in repetition. There's magic in the mundane. And there's a certain kind of happiness that only comes when you surrender fully to the task at hand. You smile again, finishing your tea, and think, perhaps next laundry day, you'll bring along your own silly story to share by the wash basin. After all, you wouldn't want to be left out of the next round of laundry legends. Days pass, and life settles back into its usual rhythms. But somewhere in the back of your mind, the memory of laundry day lingers, soft as a silk scarf brushing across your thoughts. And then, as expected, the time comes again. Laundry has a way of creeping up on you, just like the dust on the windowsills or the crumbs that mysteriously gather in the corners of the kitchen. You stare at the growing pile of clothes, tunics crumpled from daily wear, scarves stained with olive oil and pomegranate juice, woolen socks stiff with the dust of long walks through crowded streets. You know what must be done. This time, though, something feels different. You don't approach the task with the same dread or sluggish reluctance. In fact, there's a strange excitement building as you gather each piece, folding them into a familiar, satisfying bundle. The soap bar with bay leaves and jasmine, still wrapped in soft cloth, waits patiently in your cupboard. You unwrap it carefully, taking in the subtle, comforting scent. It feels almost like greeting an old friend. Before long, you find yourself retracing your steps, down the winding alleys, through bustling markets, past the tea houses with their wooden stools, set out like chess pieces along the street. And once again, you arrive at the communal courtyard, that open-air theatre of soap and steam, where every crack in the walls seems to hold a whispered secret from wash days past. The moment you step inside, the familiar sounds greet you. The splash of water, the rhythmic slap of laundry against stone, the low murmur of gossip swirling through the air like incense smoke. You're not a newcomer this time, no longer wide-eyed and fumbling. You know where to set your things, you know which basin gets the strongest sunlight in the afternoon, and which corner tends to flood if too many buckets spill. You smile to yourself as you notice some of the same faces from before, women hunched over their work, hands moving with effortless grace, their laughter bubbling up between the scrubbing. You settle into your place, roll up your sleeves, and begin. And almost immediately it feels like slipping into a well-worn rhythm, like a song you used to know by heart that returns to you after just a few notes. The soap lathers easily under your palms, its scent calming and familiar. You work the fabric with steady hands, muscles remembering exactly how much pressure to apply, how to angle your wrists to avoid cramping. You notice a few others watching you, their eyes flicking between your practiced movements and your small bar of gifted soap. One of them, an older woman with sharp eyes and silver-streaked hair, leans in, her voice playful. "Ah, you've been taught well," she says, nodding toward your soap. "That one's from Hafiz, isn't it?" You blink, surprised she knows. She chuckles softly. Her soaps always smell like bay leaves and jasmine. She gives them only to those who've proven themselves worthy of the courtyard. There's a ripple of quiet amusement around you as the others nod knowingly. Apparently you've passed some unspoken test. You can't help but grin, feeling oddly proud of your humble bar of soap and your aching forearms. As you work, the conversations around you swirl and shift. From news of a merchant's arrival with blue dyes from Persia to the curious story of a neighbour who swears she saw her lost scarf floating down the Bosphorus, carried away by mischievous river spirits. You pause mid-scrub, laughing aloud at the absurdity of it, though by now you know better than to question the logic of laundry folklore. Some historians still puzzle over whether these tales were simply ways to pass the time, or if they served deeper purposes, teaching lessons, preserving local legends, or perhaps just offering a bit of escapism from the endless cycles of domestic labour. Either way, they've become as much a part of the courtyard as the soap suds and splashing water. As the afternoon stretches on, you fall into the quiet camaraderie of shared work. No one rushes, yet everyone moves with purpose, bound by the same steady rhythm. You find yourself humming under your breath, the tune from last time creeping back into your mind. The old lullaby about wind and sea, sung softly by women whose voices carried through centuries. It feels right here, in this moment. You glance at the others, wondering if they hear it too. But even if they don't, it hardly matters. The melody drifts through your thoughts, woven into the fabric of the courtyard itself. When the last of your garments is scrubbed, rinsed, and neatly hung to dry, you sit back, watching the lines sway gently in the breeze. You feel the ache in your body, yes, but it's a good ache. A satisfying, earned kind of soreness that comes from doing something fully, from leaning into every step of the process. You sip from a cup of cool water, relishing the quiet pride settling over you, and as you watch your laundry flutter like soft flags in the wind, you realize something surprising. You're not just someone passing through the courtyard anymore. You belong here now, a part of the rhythm, a thread in the tapestry. And with that thought, you close your eyes, listening to the soft hum of the city beyond the walls, the distant toll of bells, and the gentle laughter of your fellow washers. Laundry day isn't over yet, but you're already looking forward to the next one. Evening approaches slowly, melting into the courtyard with that familiar golden haze that seems to soften every edge, stone, cloth, or bone-weary limb. You remain seated by the drying lines, letting the breeze cool your skin, still damp from the splashes of water and lingering soap. The fabrics sway gently, casting moving shadows along the sun-warmed ground, and you can't help but smile at the simple beauty of it all. The courtyard has become quieter now. Many of the women have finished their folding and departed, their bundles balanced on their hips or slung across shoulders, leaving behind only the faint perfume of lavender and lye. But you linger. You watch as Hafiz herself, the wise woman with the gifted soap, slowly gathers her last few linens, folding them with a care that feels almost ceremonial. She notices you watching and gives a soft smile, then motions for you to join her. Without hesitation, you rise and walk over, your legs moving slower now, heavy with the weight of the long day. "You've worked well today," she says, folding a fine cotton shawl with the ease of someone who could do it blindfolded. "Tell me, do your hands still ache?" You flex your fingers instinctively, realizing they don't throb as much as they did during your first visit. The skin feels rougher now, tougher in a way that oddly pleases you. "Less than before," you admit, smiling. She laughs softly, a knowing sound. "Good, that means you're learning." As she continues folding, she shares another story, this one quieter, meant more for you than for the whole courtyard. "There was a woman long ago," Hafiz begins, her voice calm and steady, "who washed her clothes here every week, just like we do. She was known for having the brightest linens in the entire district, whiter than pearls, they said." You listen intently, letting her words sink into the warm evening air. "One day," she continues, "a traveller passing through asked her for her secret. And do you know what she told him?" You shake your head, already grinning in anticipation. She said, "I wash my clothes with patience and humility, and when they are clean, I hang them in the sun and leave the rest to the wind." Hafiz chuckles softly, folding the last of her linens. The traveller was furious, she adds, her eyes twinkling. He wanted a recipe, a special herb, a magic charm, but there was none. You both laugh quietly together, the kind of shared amusement that only comes from knowing exactly what the story means. Some historians, you recall, argue that tales like this were meant to reinforce simple virtues, hard work, patience, and the wisdom of letting go. And here, in this quiet courtyard, you can see why. Hafiz finishes packing her bundle, tying it securely with a worn cloth strap. She pauses before leaving, her gaze resting on you with something close to affection. Remember, she says, sometimes it isn't about the soap, or the stone, or the herbs. It's about how you carry the weight, and how you release it when the time comes. You nod, her words settling deep inside you, soft but steady, much like the way the city's bells slowly begin to ring in the distance, marking the approach of nightfall. She gives you one final nod before stepping out into the winding streets beyond, her figure disappearing into the growing dusk, her bundle balanced with practiced grace. You remain there for a while longer, watching the last light of day stretch across the sky in streaks of orange and rose. The courtyard feels nearly empty now, save for a few remaining clothes fluttering lazily on the lines. You take in the scene one last time, every worn stone, every crooked drying pole, every lingering scent of rosemary and sun-baked fabric. And you realize you've come to love this place, not just for its practical purpose, but for its heartbeat, its stories, its quiet reminders of what it means to work with your hands and leave space for something larger than yourself. You begin gathering your own laundry slowly, savouring the process. The folds come easier now, your hands moving almost without thought. Each crease and tuck feels like a small act of devotion, a way of honouring the long chain of hands that have done the same for generations before you. As you finish packing your bundle, the last rays of sunlight vanish behind the rooftops, leaving the courtyard bathed in soft twilight. You hoist your bundle onto your back, lighter now somehow, and begin the familiar walk toward home. The streets are calm and hushed, but within you there's a quiet fullness, as if you're carrying more than just linens. You're carrying patience. You're carrying stories. And perhaps most importantly, you're carrying a new sense of ease with the world around you, earned through soap, sun, and the steady rhythm of your own hands. You glance back once, offering the courtyard a silent farewell for now. And then you step into the night, ready for whatever waits beyond. The streets embrace you with their quiet hum as you continue your walk home, the bundle of freshly laundered clothes snug against your back. The city at night is a different creature, its sharp edges softened, its busy heart now beating slower, steady, like a lullaby for those who remain awake. The moon hangs low, casting silvery shadows along the narrow alleyways, making every cobblestone glimmer faintly under its light. The lamps sway gently, their flames dancing in rhythm with the breeze, and you find yourself walking slower, savouring the peace that settles after such a long, demanding day. There's a strange comfort in knowing that your path home is the same one you walked earlier, but now everything feels changed. You feel changed. Each step feels lighter than you'd expect after hours of scrubbing, lifting, and hauling. It's as if you've shed something invisible, something far heavier than laundry alone. You pass by the familiar tea houses, their doors now closed but still glowing softly from within. Faint laughter leaks through the wooden shutters, the kind of laughter shared among neighbours lingering over their final cups of tea, savouring stories meant only for the quietest hours. As you walk, you notice other bundles of laundry cradled in doorways, draped over balconies, or resting in neatly stacked piles behind closed gates. It strikes you how laundry connects every household here, weaving through daily life like an invisible thread. The rich, the poor, the young, the old, everyone has clothes that need washing. Everyone submits to the same rituals of soap, sun, and patience. Somewhere in the distance you hear a night watchman tapping his wooden staff against the stone, announcing his patrol with steady knocks that echo through the alleys. His presence is both reassuring and timeless, a reminder that while some tasks evolve, others remain unchanged. You pause at a quiet corner where a small shrine stands, nestled between two homes. It's modest, adorned with simple flowers and a bowl of water reflecting the moonlight. Without thinking, you step closer and dip your fingers lightly into the cool water, tracing circles on the surface. You remember now, one of the women from the courtyard had mentioned this shrine. It's said to bring protection for homes, and, amusingly enough, for laundry as well. People leave offerings here in hopes of preventing sudden rainstorms or the infamous laundry thief from snatching their garments. You smile at the memory, tempted to leave an offering of your own, but all you have with you is your bundle, your soap, and the weightless peace of a day well spent. Instead, you simply whisper a quiet thanks, whether to the shrine, to the city, or to the spirits of laundry past, you're not sure. But it feels right. Some historians, you recall, argue whether shrines like this were really meant for divine protection, or whether they simply gave people a place to focus their worries, somewhere to leave the small troubles they couldn't control. Either way, you leave feeling a bit lighter, as though the act itself has softened the final stretch of your journey. You round the last corner, and there it is, your home, waiting patiently under the quiet gaze of the moon. Its windows glow faintly with lamplight, the air carrying the scent of warm bread and dried herbs from within. Stepping inside, you're greeted by the familiar creak of the wooden floor beneath your feet, a sound that feels almost like a welcome. You lower your bundle to the table, carefully untying the cloth straps. The clean clothes spill out, soft and fragrant, their colours brighter under the gentle lamp glow. As you begin putting them away, folding and stacking each piece with care, you notice how different they feel this time. Not just because they're clean, but because you've come to know their weight, their texture, their stories. There's a quiet satisfaction in knowing exactly how much effort went into each fold, every softened corner. You pause briefly, your fingers brushing over the little bar of bay leaf and jasmine soap, still nestled within the bundle. Its scent has mellowed now, but it remains strong enough to stir memories of the courtyard, of shared laughter and old songs. You place it on the shelf with a sense of reverence, knowing it'll be ready when the next laundry day calls. Then at last you sit by the window, gazing out at the sleepy city, your work complete. And somewhere deep inside you realize something profound yet wonderfully simple. Laundry day isn't just about clean clothes. It's about letting go, about sharing stories, about working through the weight of daily life and finding, hidden among the soap bubbles and wet fabric, a kind of peace that lingers long after the work is done. You close your eyes for a moment, allowing yourself to sink fully into that peace. Tomorrow will bring new tasks, new worries, new piles of dust and stains. But tonight you are wrapped in clean linens, tired muscles, and the soft glow of contentment. You smile to yourself, knowing you've earned every bit of it. And somewhere in the streets beyond, the wind gently stirs the air, as if whispering that it, too, remembers the quiet magic of laundry day. The following days slip by quietly, as they always do after laundry day, with each morning marked by the simple ease of reaching for clean garments. You find yourself smiling every time you touch the fabrics. There's a softness to them now, not just from the washing, but from the memory of how they were cleaned. And slowly, life hums along. You wear your freshly laundered tunic to the market, and it moves differently against your skin, lighter somehow. You notice how others glance at it, eyes lingering just briefly in appreciation of its bright colour and smooth texture. Some even ask where you've had it washed. You just smile, offering a quiet, knowing look, as though the answer is a secret meant only for those who've endured the ritual themselves. A week later, on another bright, cloudless afternoon, you hear familiar voices drifting through your window, voices from the courtyard. They're calling for another wash gathering. The news spreads quickly. There's been a shipment of new fabrics arriving from the eastern trade routes, exotic textiles that require special care and gentle washing. The courtyard is stirring again, and the thought of returning makes your heart lift, though you would have never imagined feeling this way when you first staggered home under that heavy load. Without hesitation, you begin collecting your laundry again, but this time with deliberate hands. You sort through the garments with confidence, selecting what needs washing, what can wait, and what might need special attention under Hafiz's watchful eye. As you pack your bundle, you slip your little bar of soap into its familiar place, a small talisman of sorts now, as much a part of your laundry ritual as the fabric itself. The streets on the way back to the courtyard seem brighter today, or perhaps you're simply noticing more. The way the shadows dance on the walls, how the merchants smile as they arrange their baskets of spices and figs, how the cats lounge lazily in doorways, stretching in the sun. You arrive at the courtyard just as others are gathering, their arms full of vibrant new fabrics, silks the colour of saffron, deep indigo-dyed linens, embroidered shawls shimmering faintly in the light. There's a buzz of excitement in the air. Even the older women, usually so composed, seem eager to exchange recipes and tricks for handling these rare materials. You settle into your familiar spot, greeted by nods and warm smiles from those around you. Hafiz is already there, seated by the basin with her sleeves rolled up, examining a bolt of silver-threaded cloth with an expression of quiet admiration. "Careful with that one," she calls out, her voice both amused and serious. "Silk has a temper." You chuckle softly, rolling up your sleeves. As you begin your work, you notice how naturally your hands move now. No more fumbling, no more second-guessing. You measure the soap with care, soaking the cloth just right, and begin to scrub with gentle, practiced strokes. Soon you're immersed once again in the familiar rhythm. Soak, scrub, rinse, wring. And yet, every wash is different, every stain its own small puzzle to solve. Nearby, the conversations blossom as the sun climbs higher. The women share stories about the origins of the new fabrics, how they came from distant ports, carried by caravans over mountains and rivers, exchanged for spices, pearls, and even glass beads said to glow in the dark. Some speak of cities far to the east, where the streets are paved with smooth white stones, and the air smells of jasmine and cinnamon. One woman swears she's met a merchant who carries cloth dyed with crushed beetles that shimmer like rubies. As always, the stories grow taller with each telling, but no one minds. This is how afternoons pass here, scrubbing and spinning tales in equal measure. You laugh along with them, fully woven into the fabric of their world now. Some historians still wonder whether these gatherings were merely practical, or whether they became something more. A living archive of trade routes, folk knowledge, and shared wisdom passed along through hands roughened by work. Sitting there watching your own hands transform dusty cloth into soft gleaming fabric, you know the answer. Of course it was more. Laundry here isn't just about washing clothes. It's about knowing where a fabric came from and where it's going. It's about learning that patience can coax even the most stubborn stains to surrender. It's about joining a circle of people who've seen every trick, heard every story, and still find joy in the simple, rhythmic swish of water against cloth. By midday, your new laundry is nearly done, and as you stretch your aching arms, Hafiz catches your gaze from across the basin. She smiles, Not her usual amused grin, but something deeper, something proud. "You've learned well," she says simply, her voice cutting through the soft chorus of chatter. And somehow those few words carry more weight than all the wild laundry legends combined. You smile back, feeling your heart swell with something you can't quite name. Maybe it's pride, maybe it's belonging, or maybe it's just the quiet realization that you've become part of something ancient and enduring, something that stretches back through time, connecting hands and hearts through soap, water, and shared laughter. You turn back to your work, your movements steady and sure, knowing that the cloth you wash today will soon carry the stories of this place into homes across the city. And with every fold, every rinse, every soft, steady breath, you feel it again. That quiet magic tucked inside the simplest of tasks. Laundry day continues, and you are exactly where you're meant to be. The sun dips toward the horizon once again, casting long streaks of amber light across the courtyard. By now, most of the heavy work is done, and the courtyard has settled into that familiar quiet hum of the late afternoon. Less chatter, more contented sighs, the kind that come only after a job well done. You sit back against the warm stone wall, letting the soft breeze dry the sweat from your brow. Your arms are sore, but it's the kind of soreness you welcome. Earned, deserved, almost comforting in its familiarity. The freshly washed fabrics sway in unison on the lines above, shimmering slightly as the light catches the delicate threads of silk and cotton alike. The scent in the air is sweet and subtle, bay leaves, lavender, a hint of citrus from a rinse someone had whispered about earlier in the day. You watch as a few of the women begin the final task of the day. Ironing. Of course, there are no electric irons here, nothing that hums or hisses from hidden wires. Instead, they use smooth, heavy stones heated by coals or left to soak in the sun for hours. The stones are wrapped in thick cloth to avoid scorching the fabric, then pressed firmly along the creases of tunics and scarves, coaxing every wrinkle into submission. It's slow work, but methodical and strangely beautiful to watch. One woman, her hands steady and sure, shows another how to use the heated stone correctly. Too fast, she warns gently, as the younger woman rushes through the motion. The stone must glide slowly, let it linger where the cloth resists. Patience smooths more than heat. You can't help but smile at her words, another small reminder of the strange poetry hidden in even the most mundane tasks. Some historians still debate whether ironing in the Ottoman Empire was more about function or ritual, whether it served simply to smooth fabric or also to symbolize setting order back into life, pressing away disorder and restoring calm. Watching it now, you can see both sides clearly. You lean back, folding your arms behind your head, letting your eyes drift half closed as the soft scraping of the stones becomes another part of the courtyard's steady rhythm. In your hazy relaxation, you overhear yet another curious tale, told by an older woman with a voice rough like gravel, but a laugh as bright as bells. She speaks of a famous laundry curse, one said to afflict anyone who disrespects their clothes or rushes through the washing process. According to her, a young merchant once scoffed at the long rituals of washing and drying, mocking the women of his household for taking such care with their fabrics. In his arrogance, he dumped his entire wardrobe into a well, convinced that the water alone would clean everything without effort. But when he returned the next day, every garment was gone, vanished without a trace, never seen again. The women around her gasp and giggle, some shaking their heads in mock disapproval. They say, the storyteller concludes with a grin, he was last seen wandering the city in nothing but a tablecloth. You burst out laughing along with the others, the absurd image too much to resist. And yet, underneath the humour, you can feel the deeper meaning of the tale. Respect the work, respect the process, or risk losing not just your clothes, but your dignity along with them. As the laughter fades, Hafiz speaks up from her spot near the basin, her tone playful but firm. "Let that be a lesson," she says with a sly smile, "to anyone here who thinks shortcuts are better than steady hands." Her eyes twinkle as they meet yours, and you grin back, fully aware that her words, while aimed at the whole group, are also meant to gently nudge you. You nod in quiet acknowledgement. You've learned by now that there's wisdom in their methods, in their patience, and in their humour. Every superstition, every odd story, every precise technique, it all ties back to something larger than soap and water. It's about honouring what you do, honouring where things come from, and honouring yourself through the act of caring, however small it may seem. The last of the ironing finishes, and the women begin gathering their things once more, stacking folded garments into baskets and tying them with cords. The courtyard glows with the soft, golden haze of twilight, everything touched by a gentle warmth. You gather your own clothes, folding slowly, savouring the smoothness of the fabrics under your fingertips, the way they seem to hold not just the scent of herbs and sunshine, but also the laughter and lessons of the day. As you pack your bundle, Hafiz approaches, slipping something small into your hand. You glance down to find a tiny sachet, stitched from scraps of embroidered cloth and filled with dried lavender and mint. "For your chest of linens," she says simply, her voice soft. "To remind you that every task has its sweetness." You thank her quietly, touched by the gesture. Somehow you know this little sachet will live among your clothes for a long time, not just as a scent, but as a reminder of everything you've learned here. You watch as the courtyard slowly empties, each woman disappearing into the winding streets beyond, their voices fading into the distance. Soon it's just you and Hafiz, sitting side by side on the worn stone bench, watching the last light fade from the sky. No words are needed now. You both know that you'll return again, not because the clothes demand it, but because there's something here that keeps pulling you back. A quiet magic, wrapped in steam and sunlight, a place where the weight of the world becomes lighter with every rinse and fold. As you rise, bundle in hand, Hafiz offers you a final glance, her eyes soft and proud. "See you next time," she says with a knowing smile. You smile back, the simplest answer in the world. "Of course." And as you step out into the evening streets, the scent of lavender and bay leaves clinging to your skin, you carry more than just clean clothes. You carry the rhythm of the courtyard. You carry its stories. And deep in your heart, you know, somewhere along the way, laundry day stopped being a chore. It became a homecoming. The streets are hushed as you walk home, the last traces of sunset melting into the deep indigo of evening. The sky above glows faintly with scattered stars, and the soft breeze carries the scent of baking bread and jasmine vines curling along stone walls. Your bundle feels lighter than ever, though you know it weighs just as much as before. Somehow the weight has shifted, not in your arms, but in your heart. As you pass familiar alleyways, you notice small signs of life winding down for the night. An old man locking up his spice shop, a child chasing a sleepy cat through the shadows, and the quiet flicker of oil lamps glowing behind latticed windows. The city is slowing down, but inside you're still humming with the quiet energy of the day. You keep walking, but your thoughts drift back to the courtyard, replaying every moment. The gentle rhythm of hands at work, the laughter ringing through the air, the way the fabrics swayed like prayer flags against the breeze. And of course, Hafiz's words linger with you most of all. Patience smooths more than heat. You chuckle softly at the memory, shaking your head as you imagine how those words apply far beyond the courtyard. Laundry wasn't just laundry anymore. It was everything. The rhythm of life itself, made visible through soap, water, and sunlight. Somewhere along your route, you pass by a familiar shrine. the same one you had visited after your first laundry day, tucked away between two crooked houses. Tonight, the small bowl of water reflects the moonlight perfectly, shimmering like silver. You pause again, unable to resist. You don't need to dip your fingers this time. Instead, you simply stand there for a moment, gazing into the water, seeing the soft reflection of your own face framed by the night. You think about all the little superstitions you've heard, the soaps, the stones, the moonlit drying rituals, and you realize none of it feels ridiculous anymore. In fact, it all feels rather comforting. Because deep down, every culture, every generation finds its own way to weave magic into the mundane. It's how people survive the weight of their daily work, by turning it into ritual, into story, into something beautiful. Some historians might still debate whether these acts are foolish or wise, but you know the truth now. They're necessary, they keep the world soft. With a quiet smile, you step away from the shrine and continue your walk, feeling the cool night air kiss your skin as you move through the sleeping streets. When you finally arrive at your door, you slip inside, greeted by the familiar scent of home. Herbs hanging in the kitchen, the faint smoke of the evening fire, and the softest trace of lavender lingering from your freshly laundered bundle. You untie your load and begin to put everything away, folding carefully, savouring the feel of each piece. The little lavender sachet from Hafiz finds its new home at the bottom of your linen chest, nestled among the smooth, clean fabrics. Its scent is subtle but comforting, as if the courtyard itself is tucked away in your cupboard, waiting for the next laundry day to arrive. You finish your task slowly, not rushing. There's no need to rush anymore. When everything is neatly stored, you pour yourself a cup of warm tea and sit by the window, looking out at the quiet city. And as you sip, you feel the steady calm that only comes from a day fully lived, from work fully done, from stories fully heard. You smile to yourself, amused by how far you've come, not just across the city, but across something far wider, an invisible distance between impatience and presence, between resistance and acceptance. You've crossed that bridge now, and you know without a doubt that you'll return to the courtyard again, not just because laundry demands it, but because your heart does. Because some tasks aren't really about the outcome, they're about the doing, about the being, about finding joy in the slow, steady magic of ordinary things. And as you sit there, tea warming your hands, the city wrapped in quiet dreams around you, you murmur softly to no one in particular. I suppose there are worse ways to spend a day. You smile finishing your tea and let the night fold itself around you, soft as linen, steady as breath. And somewhere in the distance you imagine the faint sound of fabric swaying on a line, like a lullaby for those who know the gentle art of waiting. Laundry day may have ended, but its peace lingers on. The days that follow carry the same quiet softness, as though laundry day has left a lingering imprint on everything around you. Each morning as you pull a freshly folded garment from your chest, you're greeted not just by the scent of lavender and soap, but by something more subtle, a memory stitched invisibly into every seam. You wear your clothes differently now, not with pride or vanity, but with a quiet appreciation for the labour that brought them back to life. The fabric feels almost like skin, familiar and comforting, holding within it the warmth of sunlight and the coolness of the courtyard's water. Soon another laundry day draws near. You hear whispers of it from neighbours as they sweep their stoops or barter over apricots in the market square. There's news of an upcoming festival, meaning households across the city will need their best garments cleaned and pressed in preparation for the celebrations. The courtyard, you know, will be alive again, brimming with colour, laughter, and the unique energy that only arrives when everyone is working toward the same shared goal, You gather your bundle earlier this time, moving with an ease that surprises even you. The task feels less like preparation and more like a quiet ritual now. The little lavender sachet Hafiz gave you is still fragrant, tucked safely in the corner of your chest, and you smile as you slip it into your bundle again, carrying it like a small talisman. The streets are busier as you make your way back to the courtyard, with others clearly heading toward the same destination, baskets piled high, children running ahead with buckets, their laughter ringing through the morning air. When you arrive, you're greeted by the familiar sight of fabric stretched across lines, soaking tubs already bubbling with fragrant suds, and voices raised in cheerful banter. Hafiz is there, of course, already hard at work, but with that same twinkle in her eye that seems to say, "Ah, you've returned." Without a word, she gestures to an empty spot near her, a silent invitation you accept gladly. As you settle in and begin your work, it feels almost like slipping into a well-worn melody, your hands finding their rhythm with ease. Soak, scrub, rinse, repeat. Each motion is familiar now, almost meditative. Your muscles know exactly what to do, and you fall into step with the others, your heartbeat syncing with the steady pulse of the courtyard. Around you the conversations swirl once more, tales of festival preparations, rumours of silk traders arriving from distant lands, and of course plenty of playful arguments over the best methods for stain removal. Some are still loyal to fig ash and vinegar, while others swear by lemon water boiled with bay leaves. And as always, a few mischievous souls toss in stories of laundry superstitions, so outrageous they draw laughter from every corner. One woman claims her grandmother swore that tying a red ribbon around your laundry basket would prevent misfortune from tangling your linens. Another insists that hanging clothes upside down during a full moon will attract wealth to your household, though no one can quite agree whether it actually works or merely results in wrinkled sleeves. You laugh along with them, fully immersed in this strange, delightful world, where every fabric carries both history and mystery. Some historians might still dismiss these stories as foolish relics of a bygone era, but you know better now. Here, in the warmth of the sun and the splash of cool water, these stories aren't just distractions. They're lifelines, threads that connect the women gathered here, weaving them into something greater than themselves. As the day stretches on, you notice how the courtyard begins to shimmer, with colours more vibrant than you remember. Sapphire blues, deep emeralds, fiery reds, all drying under the sun in preparation for the coming festivities. The air is thick with scents of jasmine, rosemary, and faint traces of sweet pastries baking nearby. There's a sense of anticipation, but also a calm, steady joy. Because here in this courtyard, no one rushes. Every fold, every rinse, every breath is given its full measure of attention. You find yourself humming again, the same melody from your first laundry day slowly rising from your chest, carried on the breeze. A few others join in without hesitation, their voices blending with yours in soft, steady harmony. Hafiz smiles at the sound, her eyes shining as she works. And in that moment you realize, this is more than a gathering. It's a celebration of its own. A celebration of hands at work, of patience rewarded, of finding beauty in something as simple as the sway of cloth on a line. You close your eyes briefly, letting the sun kiss your face, the voices wrap around you, and the warmth of the courtyard settle deep into your bones. Laundry day continues, as it always does, and you know with absolute certainty you'll never again see it as just another chore. It's a rhythm you now carry inside you, a song you'll never forget. The festival grows nearer with each passing day, and the city hums with a lively energy. The streets are alive with vendors hawking sweet pastries soaked in honey, spices perfuming the air, and musicians plucking cheerful tunes on stringed instruments in every corner of the market square. And yet, amid all this excitement, it's the courtyard that feels like the true heart of it all. As laundry day progresses, you notice that everyone's pace has slowed, not out of fatigue, but out of care. These aren't just everyday tunics and worn shawls tumbling in the basins today. These are the treasured garments pulled from chests and closets, reserved for special occasions. Bright silks, velvets embroidered with gold thread, delicate veils spun from the finest cotton. You've never seen the courtyard so vibrant. Scarves of saffron yellow flutter next to robes dyed with rich indigo. Crimson sashes ripple alongside gauzy white veils. The air is thick with the scent of orange blossom water, added to the final rinse to perfume the festival garments. And everywhere there's laughter, full-bodied, free, carrying over the walls into the streets beyond. As you continue your washing, Hafiz passes by and pauses at your side, inspecting your work with a critical but approving eye. "You handle the silks well now," she says, her voice warm and proud, though tinged with her usual teasing. "Soon we'll have to find you harder stains to conquer." You laugh, shaking your head. "I think I've had my fill of stubborn stains for a while. But secretly you're proud, more than you expected to be. Because somehow, over these many visits, your hands have learned what patience feels like. They know the precise pressure needed to cleanse silk without bruising it, the slow rhythm of soaking wool to keep it soft, the gentle fold that coaxes linen into smoothness without creasing. Some historians you remember reading often reduce these practices to mere domestic chores, listing them among daily women's work. They miss the deeper layers, the craftsmanship, the artistry, the quiet mastery. Hafiz seems to sense your thoughts as she glances toward the sea of colourful garments drying overhead. "They don't understand," she murmurs, her gaze soft but steady, "that this," she gestures broadly, "this is how we keep stories alive." You watch as she moves toward her own laundry, her figure framed by the sunlight, and you realize how right she is. Each fabric here carries more than dirt and dye. It carries memories, wedding days, births, first loves, last goodbyes, and you understand in that quiet moment that the courtyard is more than just a place for soap and water. It's a kind of archive, woven from silk and cotton, embroidered with human lives. As the afternoon deepens, preparations shift from scrubbing to drying and folding. The women work carefully, their movements precise and reverent, as though handling fragile scrolls from a temple library. You follow suit, your hands steady and sure as you fold your own clean garments, inhaling the faint, intoxicating mix of orange blossom and sun-warmed fabric. Nearby, someone begins singing an old song, soft at first, then joined by others until the whole courtyard hums with it. You don't know all the words yet, but you hum along anyway, carried by the melody, comforted by its familiar rise and fall. And then, as the final baskets are tied shut and the last scarves clipped to the lines, Hafiz gathers everyone together for tea, a tradition, she explains, reserved for festival week. You sit among them, sipping strong, fragrant tea spiced with cloves, feeling the day's warmth settle into your bones. Around you, stories continue to flow, some funny, some wistful, some so old that no one remembers where they began. One woman speaks of a distant cousin who lost her wedding veil to a sudden windstorm during laundry day, but considered it good luck. Another swears by an ancient method of washing with rainwater, collected under a full moon, claiming it makes colours last for years. You all laugh, savouring every tale, knowing that each story, whether fact or fancy, adds another stitch to this rich tapestry of shared memory. As the sun dips lower, casting long golden shadows across the courtyard, you feel a deep calm settle over the group. There's no rush now, no lingering urgency, just the quiet contentment of women who have worked together, sung together, and preserved their stories through soap and water. When it's finally time to leave, you gather your bundle, now smelling of orange blossoms and sunlight, and rise, feeling the soft pull of muscle memory in every movement. Hafiz walks beside you to the gate, her eyes crinkling with that familiar, knowing smile. "You'll come back after the festival," she says, not as a question, but as a certainty. You nod, smiling back. "Of course," you reply. "How could I stay away?" She laughs, her voice like a bell ringing through the cool evening air. As you step through the courtyard gate, you glance back once more, watching the laundry still swaying on the lines, watching the women lingering in the last light of day, watching the walls glow with the soft golden hue of stories well kept. And as you turn toward home, your heart feels light, yet full. Laundry day has ended, for now. But its threads are woven tightly into you, quiet, strong, and unbreakable. You carry them with you, knowing they'll call you back again. Because some songs, some places, some rhythms, once they find you, they never really let you go. The festival arrives and the city bursts into colour. Banners flutter from every window. Stalls overflow with fruits and pastries glazed in honey, and the streets are thick with music. Flutes and drums weaving a tapestry of sound that winds through every alley and square. You watch it all unfold from your doorway, your clean festival garments wrapped around you like a second skin. The fabric is soft against your shoulders, carrying the faint scent of lavender and orange blossom. You run your fingers over it absent-mindedly, remembering each step of the process that brought it to this moment. The soaking, the scrubbing, the folding, the laughter. Out in the streets, people swirl past you, their own garments just as vibrant, just as lovingly tended. It's almost funny, you think, how no one speaks of the work it took to get here. They speak of the dancers, the music, the sweets, the lights, but you know the hidden thread tying it all together, the courtyard. The work that happened there, the hours of scrubbing and rinsing under the sun, is stitched invisibly into every celebration. As you walk through the streets, mingling with the crowd, you spot other familiar faces from the courtyard. They catch your eye and smile, sharing that secret, knowing look. No words are needed. You've shared something together, something that festival goers in their glittering garb will never quite understand. You've shared the labour beneath the beauty. The festival itself feels lighter for it, somehow. Every colour brighter, every melody sweeter. The day slips by in a joyous blur, dancing, eating, laughing until your sides ache. But even as you revel in the celebration, part of your heart keeps drifting back to the courtyard, imagining the empty basins now resting in the quiet shade, waiting for the next gathering. That evening, when the festival begins to slow and the streets grow quieter, you find yourself walking home beneath the glow of hanging lanterns. You pass the same winding streets, but they look different tonight. Softer, gentler, wrapped in golden shadow. And before you realize it, your feet have carried you back to that familiar little shrine, tucked between the houses. The water in its basin glimmers faintly, reflecting the moon's silver light. You pause there, standing still, your clean garments rustling softly around you as the night air stirs. Without thinking, you pull from your sleeve a loose thread, one that had come free from your sash during all the dancing and revelry. You twirl it between your fingers, smiling at its simplicity. Then, in a quiet, instinctive gesture, you drop it into the shrine's basin, watching as it floats gently on the water's surface, spinning slowly in the moonlight. A small offering, not for luck, not for superstition, but simply in gratitude. Gratitude for the courtyard, for Hafiz, for the hands that taught you to find peace in patience, joy in repetition, and magic in the most ordinary of tasks. You stand there for a while longer, letting the coolness of the evening seep into your skin, listening to the distant echo of music still lingering from the festival. When you finally turn to go, you carry with you more than just the memories of the day. You carry the steady rhythm of soap and water, the softness of sun-dried linen, the laughter of women bound together by labour and song. And most of all, you carry the quiet certainty that no matter where life leads, the courtyard will always be waiting for you, with its stories, its rituals, its warmth, and its invitation to return again and again to the simple, sacred art of laundry. You smile as you step back into the streets, the night folding around you like a soft, clean sheet. The festival may fade, the music may quiet, but this feeling, this peace, will linger. And somewhere carried by the wind, you almost swear you hear the faintest echo of fabric swaying gently on the line, as if the courtyard itself is whispering, "Come back when the laundry pile's high again." You will. Of course you will. Because some places never truly leave you. They simply wait, patient, steady, certain, for your inevitable return. End of script. Sweet dreams.